All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live and we are ready to roll for week 10, double digits of the NFL season for 2023. Very, very exciting, of course. We are going to get our recording device underway here. That all looks and sounds very good. You may notice, of course, the shaving. Movember is in full effect. And my fundraising link, of course, for Movember is down in the description below. If you want to make a donation to me, that would be greatly, deeply appreciated. And all right, we're going to get kicked off here in just a moment. All right. In 5, 4, 3, What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Tees, and welcome to week 10 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2023 NFL season and postseason. Double digits, ladies and gentlemen. It feels like the season literally just friggin' started, and we're just already now into double digits. It's absolutely crazy, but the NFL waits for no man, certainly not me. So, week 10, and how did we do in week 9? Week 9, I have to say, was a pretty successful week. Big week straight up and a big week against the spread. 10-4 in both cases. 10-4 straight up, 10-4 against the spread in week 9. Now has me 89-47 straight up on the season, a little bit over 65%, which is very, very good. And against the spread, 10-4 has me 74, 59, and 3 against the spread. So we're a full 15 games above 500 against the spread, which is a very, very good thing around here. Just a little bit underwater on the totals at 6, 7, and 1 last week. Now has me 10 full games underwater on the totals. But if you know me, you know I struggle with totals. So 10 games under 500, not that terrible, to be perfectly honest. Taking a peek at the primetime picks from last week. On Thursday night, I had the Tennessee Titans beating the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did not do that. Pittsburgh gets the win 20-16 on the back of that incredible defense. It was a straight up and against the spread loss for me, but I did correctly tell you to stay under on the points. The Packers game, the Packers defeat the Los Angeles Rams, as I said they would. 20-3 was the final score there. Brett Rypien not exactly looking great, causing the Rams to go out and sign Carson Wentz today. That was one of the big pieces of news. It was a straight up and against the spread win for me, but I did tell you to take the over, so that was a loss. On Sunday night, the Cincinnati Bengals with a convincing performance, beating the Buffalo Bills 24-18, straight up and against the spread win for yours truly, and actually got that total correct as well. I believe that was an under, pretty marginal under, but it does hit at just 42 points. So I swept the Sunday night football pick. Gotta love that. But on Monday night, I gave it back. The Jets lose convincingly to the LA Chargers 27-6. Straight up loss against the spread, loss over under loss. So basically, I was 6-6 across the board in those picks. We certainly want to do better, but we certainly could have done worse as well. Taking a peek into the Bridgewater's finest pick'em pool for season 12 of this show. I've moved all the way up now into 6th place out of 52 people in that pool, well inside the top 10, 762 out of 1,101 possible confidence points. It's a clip of over 69%, and it is very, very close to that championship pace of around 70 that we've talked about low these many years. Brought in 91 of 105 possible confidence points in week 9, good for just over 86.5%. Was not good enough to win the week. Shout out to our week 9 winner, Goki's Winners. And Goki's Winners goes a massive 12-2 last week, 102 of 105 confidence points, over 97% on the confidence points for Goki's Winners in week 9. That's a huge week, good enough to win the week overall. And we have a new overall leader. Speaking of the overalls, Jimmy Smith, 89-47 straight up, the same mark as me on the season, 780 of 1,101 possible confidence points. That's a clip of 70.8%. Again, we talk about that magic, mystical 70% pace. Jimmy Smith now leading the pack at 780. Again, I'm in sixth place at 762. So you see there just how close those margins really are in this pool. Going to be a dogfight from here on out. We'll take a peek now into Fantasy Corner, which is, of course, brought to you by my great friends at the Dynasty Trade Calculator. My affiliate link to the DTC is in the description down below. And for as little as a cup of coffee, you can get access to one of the absolute best tools available to you online for Dynasty, Keeper, and long-term fantasy football. You're talking about trade evaluations, player rankings, podcasts, a ton of great experts available to you on the Dynasty Trade Calculator. Doesn't matter what your format is. You got a tight end premium. You're playing super flex. It does not matter. The DTC has got you covered. Once again, my affiliate link is down below. Cup of coffee, and you're going to get access to this incredible tool. Just under 500 in week 9 in fantasy. I was 3-5 across my 8 teams. Unfortunately, goes 0-2 in Dynasty last week. Tough sledding last week for both of my Dynasty teams. But in best ball, interestingly enough, one of my best ball leagues, I am now leading the pack in first place on the season. I'm in first and fourth in those two best ball leagues. So doing something right on the best ball side of things. We certainly like to see that. In the Professionals Dynasty, I did lose to Billy B, dropping my record to 4-5. I believe I'm in seventh place. Top 8 in that league make the playoffs, so I'm kind of there on the fringe. In the Ante & Co. Dynasty League, I did lose to Cat last week, dropping my record to 6-3, but I do believe I still sit in second place in that pool. I've got week 10 matchups against Gavin in the Professionals Dynasty and Steven Docklove in the Ante & Co. Dynasty. Right now, those are both projected wins for me. I think I got a little roster work to do on these two teams, especially as we get closer to the playoffs. That work is beginning in earnest, but I got some good matchups this week. And I'll take this opportunity, as I always do, to remind you that if you go to the description of this live stream, of the VOD, of the podcast episode, wherever you interact with this show, you are going to find all of my results from last week. You're going to find my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 10 in the NFL. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em Pool for season 10 of this show. You're also going to find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, which is a great little community that we've built over a number of years. You're also going to find information on my great friends and sponsors at Nerd Tees. And ladies and gentlemen, Black Friday has come early. Yes, folks, it is Black Friday time on Nerd Tees and Coffee Bean at nerdtees.ca, where across the site, you are going to save not 10, not 20, but 30% across the board. No promo code required. Toss everything you want in your cart, and the discount is going to be applied automatically at checkout. No better time to become a loyal shopper of nerdtees.ca. You are going to find dozens and dozens of incredible loose leaf tea, flavored coffee, and estate coffee blends, just like today's blend, which is an old standby for me, strawberry daiquiri. I've been drinking this for years now. Really, really enjoy it. And you are going to find a bunch of incredible options for yourself or for anybody on your Christmas list on nerdtees.ca. You don't have to use my promo code, but once Black Friday is over, make sure that you don't forget the promo code BWFinest, where you're going to save 15%. Get your free shipping on any order over $100 and a great conversion rate on the US dollar. Once again, right now, Black Friday time, ladies and gentlemen, 30% off site-wide at nerdtees.ca. No promo code required is what I was trying to say. No promo code required. You're going to save your 30%. Find yourself something to love, or find someone you love something to love. You can do it. on nerdtease.ca. We got Andrew Warren checking in the chat saying, I'm here and my I Love Breakfast shirt returns this week on my video. Excellent. I like to hear it, Andrew. That's the kind of dedication to the bit that you love to see. I love your dedication. I love your moxie, kid. Keep it up. And hey, speaking of Moxie, let's dive right in. Let's waste no more time. We are heading right into our picks here for week 10 in the NFL, and we are going to kick things off in Chicago, where we are going to see the Chicago Bears playing host to the Carolina Panthers in what might be the least watched Thursday night football game, maybe in history. And look, I wish I could say something different given the two teams that are going to be playing in this game, but like, come on. Unless you're a hardcore fan of either one of these teams, this one might be a bit of a tough game to watch. Neither one of these teams are doing really anything all that interesting on the offensive side of the ball. Right now, Carolina's defense is an absolute crater. They are the number 32 team in the NFL in terms of defensive efficiency. And I talk about efficiency. It is a stat that I really believe in. And this team does not have it on the defensive side. It's a shame because they're actually, over the last 4 games, they're top 10 in the NFL in terms of yardage allowed. They're not actually playing, from a total defense perspective, terrible football, but somehow they're giving up 31 points a game. It is mind-boggling how inefficient you have to be on defense to only be allowing 307 yards per game in your last 4, but still be giving up 31 points a game. It's crazy. It's almost unfathomable. That's what the Carolina Panthers defense is currently doing. Now you're looking at a matchup here of two teams that rank inside the bottom 10 in terms of most penalized teams in the NFL. Chicago, one of the 5 most penalized teams in the NFL. Carolina inside the bottom 10 in that regard. So neither one of these teams overly disciplined. Both of these teams struggle with the turnover ratio as well. Chicago, one of the worst teams in the NFL in terms of turnover ratio so far this season. But we also have to take into account that as bad as Carolina's defense has been lately, they're going to be missing a big piece of it this week, and that is edge rusher linebacker Brian Burns. He has already been ruled out of this game with a concussion. That is a big blow to the Panthers defense, and I've got to go with Chicago here. I think Chicago is at least a little more capable on the offensive side and are doing some good things defensively. Certainly not as much of a black hole as the Carolina Panthers currently are on the defensive side. Let's go with the Bears here. Let's kind of hold our nose, get this over with as quickly as we possibly can. Let's take the Bears at home to get the win over the Panthers. On the line, Chicago's laying 3.5 points, which I don't love having to buy that extra half point against the spread here. But I mean, it's so marginal. And once again, neither one of these teams are particularly good. So I guess we'll lay the minus 3.5. I'm taking Chicago to win. It's not a good hedge. So let's lay the minus 3.5. And once again, we'll just do one of these and hope for the best. Total in the game set at 39.5 points. Again, Carolina's defense is so bad. How can you take an under in a matchup like this? We're going to go over on this one, over 39.5 points in Chicago, Carolina. Let's go like 26-17 and hope for a good game for DJ Moore. And that's about it. If Khalil Herbert's coming back this week, let's hope for a good game for Khalil Herbert. And we hope it's not one of the worst things we've ever seen. We'll put it that way. Let's go with the Bears. Bears straight up, Bears against the spread, and give me the over on the points. Andrew, tea goes well with breakfast. Absolutely. It's a win-win for Chicago. They go up in the draft board if they win or lose because they have Carolina's draft pick. That's hysterical. I did not realize that until this very moment. That's amazing. That's so good. Half Moon joins us in the chat as well. I hope he didn't miss much. No, sir. We are just getting started. The Draft Bowl on Prime. Boy, you got that one right. All right, let's do some quick hitters here before we get into the Packers game. Let's have the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots, who are heading across the pond, the last of the NFL's international games this season. So, obviously, no kind of home field advantage here either way. This is a matchup of two teams in the bottom 10 in terms of discipline this year. Two of the more penalized teams in the NFL. The Indianapolis Colts, this will be the tail end of back-to-back road games for them. Patriots really struggle turning the football over. One of the bottom 10 or so teams in the league in terms of turnover ratio. We understand how lackluster the Patriots, really on both sides of the football, have been this year. It's a team that there's really not a lot of reason to trust in them right now. And as bad as the Colts defense has been in recent memory, their offense is doing some really, really good things, despite the fact that they don't have Anthony Richardson. Their offense, exceptionally efficient right now, top 5 in scoring over the last 4 weeks, top 5 in efficiency over the last 4 weeks. I got to go with the best unit in this game, which is the Indianapolis Colts on the offensive side of the ball. Let's take the Colts here on the road, again, international game. I think the Colts get the win over the Patriots. So on the line, the Patriots are taking +1.5 here as the de facto home dog. I like Indianapolis to win, so let's go ahead and lay the -1.5 here on the Colts. Total in the game set at 43.5. Again, that offense for the Colts, very, very potent lately. Let's grab another over here, even though scoring in the NFL has been woefully low over the last while. Let's go over 43.5 points in Indianapolis, New England. Let's go like 31-17, something like that. I think the Colts get over the 30-point plateau there. 31-17, Colts win, Colts cover, and give me the over on the points. Andrew says, at this point, my Patriots, they are the San Jose Sharks of the NFL. Now, nobody deserves that. Oh, man, I feel so terrible for the Sharks. Like, it's an all-time bad start to the season. Nobody deserves that, but except the Sharks. The Sharks deserve it, but nobody else deserves to be compared with them directly, because that's, oh boy. Next up is one of my favorite matchups this week. It's the Houston Texans on the road in Cincinnati taking on the Bengals. And the reason why it's one of my favorite matchups, this is one of the better quarterback matchups in the AFC right now. And you wouldn't necessarily think it, but Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud, what a game CJ Stroud had last week. 470 passing yards, I think, 5 passing touchdowns, a huge win for the Texans. Just a massive showing for that kid, and showing poise like a 7 or 8 year veteran in this league. He looked like a player on his second contract. Like, he looked like a seasoned pro, and it's like, dude, he could be the best player out of that draft right now. And nobody would have thought that would have been the case, but here we are. And I got to give it up to the Texans, man, on both sides of the football. For most of this season, they've been better than most people thought that they were going to be. They've been better on the offensive side. They've been better on the defensive side. Defense has struggled a little comparatively over the last few weeks, because you look back, 3-4 weeks ago, this is one of the most efficient defenses in the entire NFL. They've fallen off of that a little bit, but look, the offense doing really good things, the defense doing really good things. The problem right now is they're going to run into a buzzsaw, because the Cincinnati Bengals are all the way back. Their offense is lights out right now. The defense is bend but don't break. They are not breaking at all. They're only giving up 17 points a game over their last 4. They're giving up a lot of yardage, but they're not giving up the points associated with it. super, super efficient on the defensive side of the ball. And like the Bengals are all the way back. And it just feels like the worst possible time for this Texans team to run into this Cincinnati team. It's unfortunate. But we're going to definitely go with the Bengals here. They protect the football like few other teams in the NFL. Houston has been pretty good in this case as well, but Cincinnati is just on another level. They're not turning the ball over. They're generating turnovers on the defensive side. I think it's just going to be too much for them to match up with, them being the Texans. So we're going to take Cincinnati to win the game outright. Bengals are laying 6.5 points here as a home favorite. It's under a touchdown with how they're playing right now. I think I got to lay those points. I think we're going to lay minus 6.5 on Cincinnati. Total in this game set at 48 points. Again, the Bengals defense is playing so lights out. We could see a little adrenaline dump there from the a highly exciting win for Houston the week before. So I think I'm going to grab an under here. It's one of the larger totals of the week. In fact, it might be the largest total of the week. Second largest at this point, but I think I'm going to stick under on this one. In fact, I don't think this game gets to 40. So we're going to go under 48 points in Cincinnati, Houston. Let's go 24-14 in favor of the Bengals. Bengals win, Bengals cover, and give me the under on the points. Let's see. Bronson Howe has a couple of fantasy questions here. Trade Waddell and Khalil Herbert for Devontae Adams, and trade Purdy and Tank Dell for Mark Andrews. I would probably need a lot more time, Bronson, to figure out whether I would do either one of those deals yet. I tell you what, my Twitter is at blockbuster_guy. It's in the description down below, anything like that. Hit me up on Twitter, and I'll give both of those a little more thought and kind of give you my thoughts off stream. It's just, I don't know right off the top whether I would do either one of those, but they're interesting conversations. So hit me up on Twitter. We'll have another chat about it. The New Orleans Saints travel to Minnesota to take on a Vikings team that looks like maybe they might have found a quarterback. Josh Dobbs gets thrust into unexpected action and does nothing but wins the football game and looks pretty darn good while he does it. You got to feel good for a guy like Josh Dobbs. Look, they're a rival. Like, I'm a Packers fan. This is a rival team, but you can't not cheer for Josh Dobbs in that moment. And he came out and he played a spectacular game. Vikings come into this one as one of the least penalized teams in the NFL. As a matter of fact, they're top 5 in terms of fewest penalties taken. New Orleans is a team that is fairly protective with the football. They're pretty smart with the football. They don't turn the ball over nearly as much as a lot of other teams in this league. Minnesota being one of them. They're one of the teams that kind of struggle with the turnover ratio, or are struggling so far this year. Vikings are also kind of the walking wounded coming into this game, having just lost Cam Akers for the season to an Achilles tear. He is done. That's his second Achilles injury, basically in as many seasons, which is awful for Cam Akers. And KJ Osborne, which is a problem considering they're still waiting for Justin Jefferson to come back, though this may be the week for Jay Jettas to come back, but they lose KJ Osborne to a concussion. I'm going to lean out for him this week. Despite all of that, quite frankly, Josh Dobbs has kind of made me a believer here. I understand that it's very, very short notice, obviously. Half Moon brings up an interesting point here. Atlanta didn't have film on Dobbs. The Saints will. That's probably true, but I'm also looking at a Saints defense that honestly hasn't been playing particularly well as of late. From an efficiency perspective, they're bottom 10 in the league over the last month, giving up about 24 points a game. I do think Minnesota has the offense that they would be able to take advantage of that. And again, they might have tape on Dobbs, but he's still a multifaceted quarterback that you have to account for with his arm. You have to account with his feet. He's not just going to stand in the pocket and throw the ball 45 times a game. I don't, my gut tells me Minnesota. And my gut told me Minnesota last week. And when a lot of people went with Atlanta, and my gut's telling me Minnesota again, I think I got to go with the Vikings here. This is a marginal upset, but boy, I think I got to go with Minnesota in this one. Let's grab the upset. Let's take the Vikings at home to get the win over the New Orleans Saints. Again, this probably should be a bigger upset. It probably is a bigger upset, maybe than I'm making it out to be. I don't have a lot of faith in that Saints defense right now. So let's take the Vikings to win the game outright. On the line, they're taking 2.5 points here as a home dog. Obviously, I like them to win. Give me the plus 2.5. Total in the game set at 41. I think this could be a bit of a defensive battle. I'm going to stick under in this one. Under 41 points in Minnesota, New Orleans. Let's go like 21-17 in favor of the Vikings. I think they get that third touchdown, maybe late in the game. That's what propels them to victory. 21-17, Vikes win, Vikes cover, and give me the under. We got Gorian in the chat now. I said I'd have a bad week and pick 'em, then only lost on the Steelers and Dobbs. That's awesome, man. That is a heck of a week for you. Congratulations. That is big. And the Tennessee Titans traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucks. Another matchup of two teams that I think are pretty darn pedestrian, if we're being perfectly honest. The offenses, not really anything special. The defenses, certainly not anything special lately. The Tampa Bay Bucks giving up the most yardage in the NFL on average over the last 4 games, giving up over 426 yards on average against their defense, and obviously couldn't hold on in that game last week, the CJ Stroud miracle game. Interesting news for the Titans that came out today. They named Will Levis as their starting quarterback for the remainder of this season. When Ryan Tannehill is healthy again, he will assume the backup role. It's going to be Will Levis's job moving forward. I think he's probably earned that. The Titans can put up some yardage. They're averaging 324 over their last 4 games. They're also a team that does not take a lot of penalties. They're top 10 in the NFL in terms of penalties taken. A big contrast to Tampa Bay, one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. Now, they do kind of make up for this in the fact that Tampa Bay protects the football very, very well. They do not turn the ball over a lot. They generate turnovers on the defensive side. And maybe this is one of those matchups that I should defer to a defense that's capable of generating turnovers. I don't think I'm going to. Excuse me. I like the Titans in this matchup. It's a long week for Tennessee, having just played, obviously, on Thursday night. It's a downgrade in defensive competition. Like, look, they just had to play the Steelers. And yes, I think the Steelers are not a good football team, but that defense is deadly. They're not playing a deadly defense this week. And last week, they only lost that game by 4 points. Half Moon makes a good point that the Tennessee O-line is hurt. I still believe in them in this game. I have very little faith in the Tampa Bay Bucks on a lot of levels. I'm going to take the very marginal upset here, and I'm going to grab the Tennessee Titans on the road in Tampa to get the win over the Bucks. On the line, Tampa's laying -1.5 here as a home favorite. I like Tennessee to win. Give me the plus 1.5. Total in the game set at 38.5 points. Don't really trust a ton of units here. Under is what's hitting in the NFL lately. Let's stick under on this one. Under 38.5 points in Tennessee, Tampa Bay. Let's go Titans 20, Bucks 14. So Titans win, Titans cover. Give me the under on the points. Speaking of the aforementioned Pittsburgh Steelers, we are going to talk about the Green Bay Packers, and that is the matchup this week as Jordan Love and the Packers travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Titans. Pittsburgh also has the benefit of the long week, as the Titans did in the previous game, having played on Thursday, so 10 days worth of rest. Two teams polar opposite in terms of their discipline, like we talked about actually in the previous game as well. Pittsburgh in the top 5 in the NFL in terms of least penalized teams. So a lot of discipline on both sides of the ball, don't tend to shoot themselves in the foot, which is very good. The Packers have been shooting themselves in the foot plenty lately on a lot of levels. Penalties just happen to be one of them. Steelers on the defensive side, once again, one of the top teams in the NFL in terms of generating turnovers. I think they're averaging better than +1 per game in terms of the turnover ratio. So, I mean, look, that's a defense that I absolutely believe that's not a fluke. Like that's a defense that's good enough. They force opposing teams to make mistakes. It was nice to see Green Bay win last week. I knew that was a winnable, very winnable spot for them, especially when I kind of had the inkling that Stafford was not going to play. So I was like, okay, this is a great spot for Green Bay. Snap that losing streak, grab some momentum. It's a bad time to have to go to Pittsburgh and play the Steelers. And Gorian kind of asks in the chat, one thing I won't understand, why is Pittsburgh not a good team? So I don't think the Steelers are a particularly good team, mostly because of the offense. I think they're very similar, in fact, to the New York Jets. I think they're a bad team that has a really good defense. And that's how I feel. Like, that's how I feel about the Jets. I think they're a not very good team that has a defense that can play very well. So, yes, the Steelers definitely win games that they probably shouldn't on paper, entirely on the back of that defense. I don't trust that offense on almost any level. Unfortunately, I can't say I trust Green Bay's defense on any level either. So at Green Bay, they're only averaging 15 points a game over their last 4. They're one of the least efficient offenses in the NFL over that span. Now, they're playing good defense as well. They're a top 10 efficiency, top 10 total, top 5 scoring defense over their last 4 games. But they're, once again, not a good football team with a very good defense, or a defense that's playing very well lately. In any case, this what's obviously going to be a very low scoring game, as far as I'm concerned, as neither one of these offenses is producing particularly well. I got a skew on the team that I think overall has the better defense. That to me is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're a slightly better coached team. I think they have a slightly better roster top to bottom. Let's take the Steelers at home to get the win over Green Bay. On the line, Pittsburgh laying -3 here as a home favorite. I like them to win. It's right on the edge of my relatively small price to pay, so we're going to lay the -3 on the Steelers. Total in the game set at 38.5. I don't think this game gets to 30. I just don't see it. Neither one of these teams are scoring points right now, so I don't think the game gets to 30. Let's stay under 38.5 points in Pittsburgh, Green Bay. Let's go 17-10 Steelers. I think this is going to be a fairly low event football game, won by the better defense, that being the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see. Gorian, Lockett, Steelers win here. Half Moon, the fanboys are 0-5 in Pittsburgh in their last 5 matchups. That's a good stat. I don't know that I would trust Kenny Pickett just yet, says Andrew. I don't trust either one of these quarterbacks right now, to be perfectly honest. Gorian, to me, it's not about a side of the ball. Tomlin's a coach that knows how to get guys to play for him. That's true. Better quarterback as well. Kind of a wash. Again, I don't think either one of these quarterbacks are particularly good. So better might be a matter of perspective, but I think Pittsburgh's got more than enough to get the win here. That's for sure. All right, couple more quick hitters before we get into the Sunday night football game. Let's go to Jacksonville. This is one of the most intriguing matchups of this week for me. The San Francisco 49ers in Jacksonville taking on the Jags. Both of these teams coming off of their bye. So both of these teams very well rested. Both of these teams averaging at least but a half turnover a game to the positive in terms of the turnover ratio. So they're both very good teams at generating turnovers, not giving up a ton. And Jacksonville, I give the slightest edge here in terms of discipline. They're a top 5 team in the NFL in terms of fewest penalties taken. So Jacksonville is not a team that, from a discipline perspective, is shooting itself in the foot. The San Francisco 49ers are a team that obviously deserve to be looked at the way that they are. The Niners are looked at as a Super Bowl contender. They deserve to be. They absolutely should be. The Jags, not necessarily looked at like a true Super Bowl contender, playoff team for sure, but a Super Bowl threat. I don't think most people would call the Jags that. But look at the way they've been playing over the last month. Top 5 in offensive efficiency, top 5 in defensive efficiency, top 10 in total offense, top 5 in scoring offense, top 10 in scoring defense. This Jags team right now is for real, and they're showing it on the football field. The Niners in the last 4 games have looked downright pedestrian. Their offense can move the ball, but they're not scoring points the way that this Niners team normally does or should be for the yardage that they're getting. I'm going to go right for it. I think the Jags upset the Niners this week. It's in Jacksonville. This is their spot. This is their time to prove that they are, in fact, Super Bowl contenders. Can't believe I'm going to say this with a team that is owned by the Khan family. The Jacksonville Jaguars upset the San Francisco 49ers this week in Jacksonville. Write it down. Jags with the big upset win. So against the spread, the Jags are taking +3 here as a home dog. I'm obviously going to take those points because I like Jacksonville to win the game outright. Total in the game set at 45.5 points. I think this game gets into the 50s. So let's take the over in this one. Over 45.5 points in Jacksonville, San Francisco. I'm going to go 27-23 in favor of the Jags. Jags win. Jags cover the +3 and give me the over on the points. Let's go to Baltimore now for a division matchup of the AFC North. The Cleveland Browns traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Now, Cleveland, one of the teams that have struggled comparatively in terms of turning the football over. Turning the ball over more than they're generating on the defensive side. The Browns defense had a really good start to the season. I feel like they have cooled off as of late. Yardage total defense is still very good, but they're giving up more than they should be giving up given the yardage that they're giving up. So again, that defensive efficiency not really there for the Browns lately. On the offensive side of the ball, I think their offense is playing just fine. But boy, you're running into a Baltimore Ravens team, the only team in the NFL right now that over their last 4 games, top 5 in offensive efficiency, total offense, and scoring offense. This team moves the ball and puts the ball in the end zone. That's what they've been doing over the last month. This defense has also been deadly over the last month. I have no reason to believe that the Baltimore Ravens do not win this game convincingly, despite the fact that it is a division matchup. And of course, anything can happen. I'm very heavily on Baltimore in this matchup. Let's take the Ravens at home to get the win over the Browns. Ravens are laying -6 here against the spread. I like them to win. It's under a touchdown with how they're playing right now. I think I got to lay that -6 there on Baltimore. Total in the game set at 37.5. And despite the great propensity of the Ravens defense that I just praised them for. Again, this offense is playing lights out right now. I think Cleveland's going to be able to score some points. So give me the over in this one, over 37.5 points in Baltimore, Cleveland. Let's go Ravens 27, Browns 14. Baltimore wins, Baltimore covers, and give me the over on the points. Then we're going to go to an interesting one. The Atlanta Falcons traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals and the return of Mr. Fortnite himself, Kyler Murray. We assume that this is going to be the return game for Kyler Murray. It seems to be trending in that direction at the very least. So, look, obviously, we know what the Arizona Cardinals are, and that's not a particularly good football team. We also know what the Atlanta Falcons are, and that's also not a particularly good football team. What Atlanta's been able to do very well over the last month is move the football. Their total offense is top 5 in the NFL over the last 4 games. They move the ball very well, but for how well they move the ball, they should be scoring a lot more. And unfortunately, over the last month or so, they are not. They're only averaging just under 21 points a game, despite the fact that they're top 5 in total offense. Arizona does almost nothing right, very little right. Their total defense has not been terrible. Same deal with Atlanta. Their total defense has not been terrible. Both of these defenses give up more points than they should. I'm just going to go ahead and take the Cards here. This was almost like the flip of a coin, but it's a home dog. It's a quarterback returning after, nearly a year or a long time away from the game. I guess it was, trying to remember exactly how long it was, but a long time away from the game. I think this is something of a reminder/revenge game for him, coming back in and saying, "Oh, hey, by the way, my name's Kyler Murray and I'm still here and I am still that guy." I think that's what this is for him. I think he wants to come back and make a statement. I'm going to go with Arizona here. If they do wind up playing him, if he is ready to play, I'm just going to go with I'm just going to hold my nose because, again, I don't think this is a particularly good game featuring particularly good teams. But let's just go ahead and grab the Cardinals here because why not? Half Moon says, I would sit Kyler. What's the point in playing him at this point? Boy, it's tough to say that to a player, right? Who's worked as hard as he has to get back from that injury. It's real tough to get him to understand that. From a team's perspective, I totally get it. I totally get not wanting to play him, but boy, if he's healthy, I think you have to. We're going to grab Arizona to get the upset, quote unquote, win here at home. On the line, they're taking plus 1.5 here as a home dog. I like them to win, so give me the plus 1.5. Total in the game is 43 points. I think I have to stick under on it because both of these offenses are woefully unimpressive. So let's go under the 43-point total. We're going to go like 21-20. Like, why not? 21-20. That's what we'll go in this game. Arizona wins outright. Arizona covers, and give me the under on the points. Let's skip over to Sunday Night Football, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Jets traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. A stunning quarterback matchup of Aiden O'Connell versus good old Zach Wilson. Holy cow. One of the least impressive quarterback matchups that we can probably put on the field at this point in this season. Oh boy. The Raiders, at the very least, are a top 10 disciplined team. They don't take a lot of dumb penalties. And I think we kind of saw that. We've seen that over the last couple of weeks. They're not a woefully undisciplined team. And I think they can do some good things. They did some great things in the front office by firing just about everybody. So that was certainly a good start for them. They do turn the ball over a little bit too much, but it's tough for that to not be the case when, Jimmy G was your starting quarterback for most of the season. The New York Jets are going to have the detriment here of the short week. They just played last night, and holy cow, did they ever look terrible. And it was against, an LA Chargers team that I don't think is a particularly great team. I think they're a good team who have flashes of greatness. I don't think that's a great team top to bottom, right? But I mean, the Jets made them look like the Chiefs. Like, I mean, they looked like an elite, like unstoppable football team. So, you know, I think that's just as much on the Jets as it was a positive, let's say, to the Chargers. I think I'm on the Raiders in this one. Like I don't I have no faith, very, very, very little faith. I guess I'm talking about that a lot lately, but very, very, very little faith in the New York Jets until like until Aaron Rodgers comes back. Basically, I think the Jets have very good pieces on the offensive and defensive sides. They're a better team on paper, certainly than what they showed us last night. Like they're a better team on paper than what we saw. And you know, granted, they had like 270 yards of offense, so they did do some good things. And that defense is very good. The Jets defense is very good. But as good as the Jets defense is, I think the Raiders are playing just about as good as the Jets are lately. So, and that's a bit of a surprise because you don't think about good defense when you think about the Raiders. I think I'm going to take them here. They're a very marginal home dog. I kind of like them this week. Let's take the Raiders on the road or at home, sorry, against the Jets on Sunday Night Football. Raiders get the win in Vegas. Like I said, very marginal upset here as the Raiders are plus 1.5 against the spread. I like them to win. Give me the plus 1.5. Total in the game set at 36.5 points. Neither one of these offenses are lighting things on fire right now. I think the Raiders are playing a bit better, but neither one of them are, really, really remarkable. Let's take a sneaky under here. Under 36.5 points in Raiders Jets. Let's go Vegas 21, Jets 13. Something like that. So what is that? That gets us to what? 34 points. Sneaky under, very close, but I like the Raiders in this one. Let's take the Raiders to win this thing. Let's say Gorian, standalone games this week are garbage. Yeah, they're not great. They're not great, are they? Andrew, firing Josh McDaniels could be a blessing in disguise. I don't think it's even a blessing in disguise. I think it's an outright blessing. I think it should have happened a while ago. Like they were going in the wrong direction long before they made this decision. So good on them for finally just kind of ripping the Band-Aid off and doing what needed to be done. All right, 3 more games to talk about before we get into the Monday Night Football game of Denver in Buffalo, Broncos at the Bills. We are going to start with an aforementioned Chargers team, top 5 in the NFL in terms of discipline. Don't take a lot of penalties, but on the detriment of the short week, having just played last night, they're going to be at home playing host to the Detroit Lions. The Lions coming off of their bye, so should be well rested in this one, and a disciplined team in their own right, top 10 in the NFL in terms of fewest accepted penalties taken. Detroit having themselves a pretty excellent season. They're moving the ball pretty darn well. You'd like to see them scoring a few more points than they are lately, but they move the ball exceptionally well. The defensive side, all that defense has to do is be average. Like they just need to be average. And I think this Detroit team is gonna make some noise. I think they're gonna do some damage as long as the defense doesn't crater. And they're not doing that right now. The defense actually playing pretty darn good football. And as Half Moon points out, there's a big rest discrepancy, as I said earlier, big rest discrepancy in this game where Detroit is coming off the bye. Chargers are only going to have 6 days to get ready for this game. So I really like Detroit in this one. That rest advantage, I think, is going to be huge. I like the Lions on the road in Los Angeles. Let's take Detroit to get the win over the Chargers. On the line, the Chargers are taking 2.5 points here as a home dog. I like Detroit to win. It's a small price to pay. Let's lay the minus 2.5. Total in the game set at 48.5 points. I think I'm going to stick with an under here because I don't think the Chargers get to 20. If I thought the Chargers were going to get to 20, then you basically almost have to take an over. But I don't think they get to 20. So we're going to stick under 48.5 points here in Detroit, Los Angeles. Let's go 27-20 in favor of the Lions. Lions win, Lions cover, and give me the under on the point total. Very quickly, let's talk about the college spread game of the week, which is the Dallas Cowboys at home taking on the New York Giants. Giants on the tail end of back-to-back road games here. And boy, just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, they lose Darren Waller. He goes on IR. Now they've lost Daniel Jones. He's done for the season, tearing his ACL. And I don't think the Giants win another game this season. Can I make this my Colin Cowherd moment and say that I don't think the Giants win another game all year? Because boy, like, and it's past the trade deadline, man. It's not like you can do anything about it, really. There's one thing I think the Giants could have done. And this is going to sound stupid, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Giants could have thrown a bunch of money at Carson Wentz. If they're trying to win any games, why not? Carson Wentz just got signed today to be basically the Rams' backup quarterback. The Giants could have thrown a bunch of money at Carson Wentz and said, hey, just save us for the rest of the year. But like it's past the trade deadline, man. What are you going to do? Boy, oh boy. It doesn't bother me that the Cowboys are like bottom 5, like most penalized teams in the NFL. It's not going to make any difference. Dallas is going to roll in this football game. The Giants do not get to double digits. Dallas is going to cover this massive spread of minus 16.5, which is normally like puke worthy in a division game. But the Giants right now are barely an NFL team. They're just not. Like, the defense has played well lately. The offense is terrible. The offense is awful. How bad are the New York Jets on offense right now? In their last 4 games, they are averaging, let me clear my throat for this, 9.8 points per game. Less than 10 points per game. Crazy bad. Dallas wins. Dallas covers. Dallas might hit the over in this one by themselves because I feel like every time the Giants have the ball, it's just going to be a turnover or a 3 and out. I'm going to go like 34-7. So like I'll give the Giants their flowers. I'll give them like a Saquon Barkley touchdown from the 1 or something, probably on like a defensive pass interference or something. So 34-7. I'll take the over. But yeah, Dallas wins and Dallas covers a massive spread. Then we've got Washington, the Commanders in Seattle taking on the Seahawks. This is the tail end of back-to-back road games for the Commanders. And as impressed as I had been with, Seattle, like especially on the defensive side a few weeks ago, most of that has gone away. They're all right. They've been all right defensively over the last month's worth of games. That offense has kind of disappeared. They're only scoring 15 points a game. That's as bad as Green Bay. Their offensive efficiency is bottom 5 over the last month. Seattle's just struggling to move the ball and put points on the board. And I mean, look, Washington has kind of had that problem for most of the season. And neither one of these defenses are doing anything particularly noteworthy. That's why it was so interesting to me when Seattle It was laying -6. Riddle me that. Seahawks laying -6, given that they're scoring 15 points a game in their last 4 games. If it smells right to you, it doesn't smell right to me. And I've made a tasty little profit this season on looking at games and looking at a spread and saying, that doesn't smell right. Why is this team favored by this much? There was a game a couple weeks ago where like Atlanta was like favored by -4.5. And I was like, that doesn't smell right. And I went against them, and lo and behold, it was a fairly comfortable upset. I kind of feel that way about this one as well. Half Moon makes a point because they played the AFC North. Like, all right. Yeah. I mean, the AFC North has good teams. They absolutely do. Nothing is going to make this line smell right. It's really not. And I got a lot of questions about this Seahawks team over the last month. They just don't feel like the same team that I was talking about, even like, or thinking about a few weeks ago. They just don't strike me as the same team. All this to say, this is another upset play for me this week. Doesn't smell right. I'm going to take the Commanders outright. I've been really impressed with the combination of Sam Howell and Jahan Dotson over the last few weeks. I think this offense is capable of getting this done. They're moving the ball really well. They're putting some points on the board, not a crazy amount of points, but points, certainly more than Seattle has over the last month's worth of games. If the defenses are essentially a wash, which is kind of what I feel like they are right now, defer to the better offense. So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to take the Commanders in this game outright to upset Seattle in Seattle. On the line, Seahawks are laying -6. I'm more than happy to grab +6 on the Commanders. One way or the other, I think you hedge your bets on this one. I think you take those 6 points with Washington. Even if you don't like them to win the game, I think you take the 6 points. Total in the game set at 45.5 points. This is an under to me, partially influenced by the weather. It is going to be rainy in Seattle. It's like basically, it's almost 100% chance. I think it's a very high percentage chance of rain in Seattle. I think this is going to be a low scoring game, but I still think Washington's got enough to get this job done. We're going to take under 45.5 points. Again, weather influenced. We're going to go 20-16 in favor of the Commanders. Commanders win. Commanders cover the +6 and give me the under on the points. All right, only one game left to go, and it's the Monday Night Football game, the Denver Broncos in Buffalo taking on the Bills. Now, the Bills are a team that obviously has a number of problems. And I think there are a number of like fairly obvious problems if you watch them. One of the most obvious problems is the fact that they can't stop taking penalties. They are one of the most penalized teams in the NFL, and it's on both sides of the ball. Buffalo is a team that shoots themselves in the foot as much as any other team in this league in terms of penalizing themselves, shortening drives, extending opposition drives on the defensive side. It's just bad. They're going to play a Broncos team here that's going to come into this game off of their bye, so they're going to be well rested. We understand that there's a talent gap between these two teams. On paper, the Buffalo Bills are easily the more talented football team. They're not necessarily playing like that lately. They're moving the ball. Their defense is relatively efficient, but Denver's right there with them from an efficiency perspective. I do think Buffalo's offense will be enough in this game to get the job done, because quite frankly, if Buffalo's going to lose this game, who are you beating in the AFC landscape? If you can't, in the middle of the season, get a win in your home building against the Denver Broncos, a team that are like a fringe playoff team. They might compete for a wild card. They probably won't. But if you can't win this game in week 10, I mean, super wild card weekend, who are you beating if you can't beat Denver in the middle of the season? It's no disrespect to Denver, but these two teams, there's levels to this. And Denver is not on Buffalo's level. And if Buffalo plays down to Denver's level, they could absolutely lose this game. 100%. I'm going to assume that as a team that's trying to win, they're not going to do that. Then again, if they were really a team that was trying to win, they do what I thought they should have done and shipped Gabe Davis and a draft pick to Las Vegas and brought Devontae Adams over. But that's neither here nor there. Let's focus on this week. And this week, I think we have to lean on the Buffalo Bills here at home. Let's take Buffalo to beat Denver. Against the spread, the Bills are laying -7.5. And this is a bad hedge. I don't love it. I'd love it a lot more if this was like double digits. And if Buffalo was playing like Buffalo, maybe it might be double digits. But we're going to go ahead and hedge here and feel kind of bad about it, but we're going to do it anyway. +7.5 on the Denver Broncos. Again, don't love it, but that's the way we're going to go. Total in the game set at 47. I think we got to stick under on this one as two teams who are playing fairly efficient defense right now. Let's stick under the 47-point total on Monday Night Football. We're going to go like 24-20 for the Bills. Could be a garbage time touchdown that, grab a backdoor cover there if you're Denver. But yeah, we're just going to stick under on it and go like 24-20. So Buffalo wins. Denver covers the +7.5. Give me the under on the 47-point total. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, those are the picks for week 10 in the NFL. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop in and watch the show. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Tees. And I did want to mention, which I didn't mention on last week's stream because it wasn't November yet. Obviously, you're going to notice your boy shaved his beard, but we still got the mustache going. And that's because I am fundraising for Movember. This year. You are going to find the link to my Movember campaign in the description down below. If you have the means, a donation to the campaign would be incredible. I would be very grateful for that. The Movember Foundation is the largest foundation worldwide that fundraises for testicular cancer, prostate cancer, men's mental health, a lot of great things. And I've been a big supporter of theirs for a lot of years. We're growing the mustache this year. If you can make a donation, I would really appreciate it. If you can't, please do not make a donation if it's not within your means. I totally understand it, but the link will be down below in the description. If you have the means, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking out the show. We'll see you again in week number 11. All right, folks. Those are the picks. That is the show for week 10. Number of contentious picks in there. I think I took like 6 upsets this week. Now, some of the lines are really, really close, and some of the lines will almost certainly change. But yeah, I got a number of upsets in there for sure. And yeah, it's going to be a very interesting week. It could be one of those turning point weeks, like where we're into double digits now. It's It's always interesting when we get to this point in the season, whether you start the season very well. Do you have the staying power? You struggled early in the season. Do you hit your stride around this point? So it's like moving day in a golf tournament. It's the third round of a golf tournament, right? It's moving day. If you're going to make your move, it's got to start now. So interesting time of the season for sure. I hope your picks go exceptionally well this week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I myself am going to be going away watching some hockey games this weekend. First Mooseheads games of the season, which I cannot wait for. Yeah, so enjoy your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop in and watch the show. And we'll see you again next week. Nerdtease.ca, Black Friday, 30% off.